Hello, my name's Nick, and I am the OG confused byproduct of a misinformed culture. It's good to meet you. Um, it's been a long time coming. It's the 10-year anniversary of when I uploaded my first video. And I was very adamant about a lot of things when I started the channel, and one thing I swore I would never fucking do is no one would ever see my face. I'd be super anonymous. I was a peculiar person back then. I also think the internet was a different place back then. It was certainly a different place back then. And I think most importantly, I was a different person back then. My vision for the channel at that time didn't even really exist. I was just someone who was lonely, going through some shit, who had some turntables, some music, and a lot of free time. So I made mixes. I don't think I ever planned on anything ever happening of it. I believe my original intent, God, if you go back to when this all started, I had moved back to the US after living abroad for a few years. YouTube in like 2009 existed, but it wasn't what it was now, or is now. But I remember coming back and I wanted to hear some drum and bass, so I like drum and bass mixes. And I see all these mixes of just like dudes in their bedrooms or in their basements or in their living rooms just dropping sets, and people listen to them. So I was like, well, fucking A. I can do that. At the time I was all vinyl, but I didn't have like video capabilities. And honestly, I don't think I uploaded a new vinyl mix, up until a few years ago. But I bought like a DJ controller, and I like looked into like where do you even buy audio files of music. Back then I didn't know, but Beatport, I think that was even before Bandcamp, SoundCloud had free downloads or links to places that you could buy them. But yeah, originally it was just to be a drum and bass DJ. And I didn't really know anything about how it worked. I didn't know about subscribers there was no Patreon back then. It was just like, I'm going to make something and I hope some people can listen to it. It'd be cool, share something that I enjoy with people, and if they enjoy it, that's cool. So the very first mix that I made for the channel, well, the first one that got uploaded, I think it was like the 2013 trance mix. It's funny because I've just gone on and on talking about how I was going to be a drum and bass DJ. I liked all forms of like dance music and most music in general anyways, but God, I was really into trance back then. So yeah, I made a trance mix. Like I had said, I was overseas for a while. I didn't have my turntables, so when I got home, well, things were kind of fucked up, honestly, and I spent a lot of those first few years like living in an empty apartment. I had the turntables, I had the speakers, I had the music and all of that, but like it was very hard to connect to anything in a way that felt good. So eventually I ended up like storing them in my cupboards, like in my closet, because I didn't even want to look at them. So God, I can't really remember when that turning point was where I was like, you know what? I am so fucking bored of just sitting in my goddamn apartment staring at the fucking refrigerator. But there was a moment. I want to say it was right around when Lana Del Rey dropped Blue Jeans. As funny as that might be, I really, really, really love that song. it kind of like reminded me of the power of music and that it was able to affect me even though I felt like I was beyond being affected. So I got my turntables out, and the first mix I made was not the trance mix, but that was the first one I uploaded. The first one I made was dark and heavy drum and bass. At the time, I really wasn't into like naming mixes or like trying to do anything, but I was at the same time because I had been a DJ prior to that since 1999. And there have been moments in sets where I was like able to tap into this creative energy. I mean, I think that anyone who's like, whether it's like a sport or playing an instrument, if you do it, you know, if you're having a set or if you're playing a concert or if you're soloing or just practicing and you really get in the groove, it's like everything just goes away. And I didn't know that that was what I was searching for in making that mix. But there was that point when it just went away, you know, like I had lots going on at that time. And for like, it wasn't the whole set that it went away, but for a lot of it, it did. I remember the last transition. God, it was a double breakdown. And for me in like 2013, double breakdowns weren't what they are back then, what they are now. And that everyone does double breakdowns now. You know, you'll have sets that are just fucking triple breakdowns, quadruple breakdowns. And back then, you know, it was like a testament. It was like, holy shit, a motherfucker dropped 2 tracks at the same time. And the whole thing was a freestyle, and I could feel them coming on, and I was like, holy shit, you've been on fire for like 50 minutes. If you fuck this up, it's going to ruin the whole goddamn flow, and you're going to feel like shit. Don't fuck it up. And I didn't. So I dropped that, and I don't even know if I want to go into where I was at that point in my life. But I can say that making that changed how I felt. Not long term. It wasn't like, oh, I made a mix. I made a drum and bass mix. Oh, I'm fine now. But it made me feel better. You know, it was like it challenged what I thought I could do, because at the time I was so convinced that I was just worthless. And to me that had value. It had worth. If just for me, I could listen to it again after that, and it was like there was a current, you know, like something I could swim towards, and I could feel like that again, even when I wasn't making the mix, because I did it. I don't know how long between that mix and the next where I got that feeling. I do know that I made this mix called Trip Hop laced with funk, soul, and something. I don't know. But that was the next like real bomb that went off for me. Again, that must have been 2013, and it starts off funky. At the time I was very much into doing what I felt no one else was doing, and that I would combine a lot of different genres of music that at the time not many people were doing, whether it was like, I think I ended it with Lana Del Rey's Summertime Sadness, there was breakbeats, there was trip hop, there was hip hop, there was soul. I'm not saying no one has ever done anything like that before, but they're like few and far between. And I always felt like as a DJ, you have an opportunity to make something that's super unique to yourself. And that mix was very meaningful to me in the tracks that I chose. And again, as a freestyle, I think, God, what's his name? Venetian Snares. God, it was some breakcore I mixed out of the theme from It. Like, there's just a bunch of just weird stuff that I liked. And somehow, I mean, like, looking back and listening to it, it's not like the transitions were great. Some of them were good. but there was just this energy, like there was this forward movement, and the mix ends, I really have come to enjoy when you can build a momentum up through a mix until it gets to this like cataclysmic just and it did that in that mix. And that for me at that time was like the most powerful expression of, I'm not going to say mixology, mixing. It was something that I didn't think I could do that I did that changed how I felt. And that one worked a little longer. I don't know how long it was after that mix where I was like, okay, you're still garbage. But I could go back and listen to that. And I still can. And just touch on that energy. And for me, there's such a story there. So I would like kind of walk the line between just like getting my fix, listening to other mixes that I had made, and like planning the next ones. I don't know if there was anything that big personally for me in 2013. However, 2014, I basically sold everything I owned. I got a job in the city. I moved in. I had lived by myself my whole adult life, always. But I moved to San Francisco. I had 4 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment. It was fucking awful, obviously. But I don't know. I really strive on like tension and not feeling well and anger, and maybe that's a bad thing to strive on. Stride. I don't know. Hopefully the word is conveyed. I strive on it. I don't strive on pain. But I do well with it. Like when it comes to creativity, it is very much it's like an inspiration to get something out of you. And at that time, I was just blowing up personally. I was going through lots of changes before I had created the channel. And I'm not going to say the channel saved my life, though in some regards it fucking did, absolutely. But I was involved in something else that was like a more personal journey through my own self. And I think that what I was going through with that, I translated into the mixes. And between the two of them, I kind of carved out this path from like fucking garbage to pretty good. Pretty fucking good. So yeah, I'm living in the city. And like, I'm still a drum and bass DJ. I know I've made like some psychedelic trance mixes, some house mixes, and various things like that. But I had a neighbor, and the neighbor was fashionable. She knew people, and I thought maybe I could give her a demo and that she could hand it to her people who are very much involved in like the nightlife there, and see if I could like get bookings. But she was like, they're not gonna like your drum and bass shit. What else do you got? So I made a trip hop mix. It was like a posh, upscale, loungy like scene, and I was like, okay, this will work. And I didn't get booked. She never called me back. But I uploaded it to my YouTube channel. I think it was right around there too that I realized that I had followers. I think in 2014 I might have had 60. So if you were one of those 60, and even if you weren't, thank you. So anyways, I uploaded that to my YouTube channel, and for me, I think my videos averaged anywhere from like 10 views to a couple of hundred. That one went up to like 10 or 15,000 in the first few months, and I was like, oh, okay. I can't remember what the second trip hop video I made was. I know I made a few other mixes while I was living in that apartment, but oh, God, I probably should have done a little bit more research before I decided to just do this, but I don't know. I didn't live in that house for long. I think I was still very much like, okay, so people might listen to trip hop, but I'm a drum and bass DJ. I know I was like exploring trap because trap was pretty popular back then, and breakbeats. I've always liked breakbeats. That might have been the only trip hop mix I made there, but things came to a head in that house, arguments. So I moved out. And I moved to like a commuter city, and that was when the channel really like took form. I was more consistent with my mixes there. I want to say the first mix I made was just this jump up mix. I liked it. I want to say it was somewhere, God, I don't even know what month it was, but closer to Christmas. And at some point, I get this fucking idea. There's a point in every mix that I want to make. Like, there's a point in every good mix where it's just like you're on autopilot and you're not thinking. You know what to do before you do it. You know where to cue things. You know where to adjust your knobs. You know what track to play. You're thinking like chess, and that you're like, I'm going to hit this and this and this, and I'm going to change the bit here. And it's like autopilot, but it's not. And it's like you can't fuck up at that point. Like it's beyond you. You know, you're just kind of like a conduit for whatever your intent for that mix was. And I wanted to make a mix that was all flow. Because a lot of the time to get to that point, you're going to have to make some mistakes. You know, you have to find it. You have to find the flow. And I didn't want to find the flow. I wanted that whole thing to be flow. And I mean, it was more than that. I wanted it to just blow whatever ideas I had of what I thought I could do possible out of the water. So, I mean, I wanted to make the greatest thing that I could possibly make. And what came out was the Masterpiece Sessions. I think it took about a month. It could have taken longer. I had so much internal turmoil and stuff going on, and it was like the only thing I could do with it was just this. You know, I had a project and I was going to use everything I was going through as fuel. And then I finished it, and I finished it at like 4 o'clock in the morning, Christmas morning. I remember I was working Christmas Eve, and I knew I was going to finish it that night. Like I had figured out what I was going to mix, where I was going to mix it, but I was very nervous because it was like an intense, emotional mix. I believe there were a few transitions where I had like less than 3 seconds to cue the track after I had dropped the other track, because I was just working on a 2-channel mixer. And I think I had like 32 tracks on there. And you can't mess up. You know, if you're like 14 tracks deep and you forget to switch the bass, or you miss your cue point, or you don't transition, it's how you want it. Because I had done each of those transitions enough to know what they needed to sound like, so there was like a lot of pressure. But I was like, I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna do it. So I went home and I just recorded over and over and over and over again until I finally got it. And then I got it. And then I just kind of sat there and I was like, holy shit, you did it, you know? And like that feeling, that was something else, you know? Like that was like a personal accomplishment. So, you know, I uploaded it immediately. I knew who Banksy was. I didn't really know about artwork. I didn't know about art. I mean, I didn't know about, like, how do you say this? I had to pick something that reflected the energy of the mix, and I didn't know what art I was going to choose. And I didn't even know what, like, my Google searches were for, but I see that balloon, you know, is the Banksy art, and I was like, holy shit, that's it. So that was like that first mix where I had an idea for something that I wanted to do, like a big idea for it, and then yeah, I stuck with it. That was not something I could have just gone up and pressed play. Like there's no way. Um, and that started something for me, and that I knew I had I had the ability to create something that changed how I felt about myself. And knowing that and having like the tools at my fingertips to do it, and having like that, I hate to call it inspiration, but it was just like a dark place that you're running from and you're trying to like claw your way out of. Having that is like, you got to get away from it. So it was like, okay, well, I have a means to get away from it, so I'm just gonna fucking make as many of these as I can. And I went on and on and on. Masterpiece sessions. After that, I made Quintessence. Quintessence was a good mix. And I really couldn't believe that I had made that and Quintessence. And then I don't remember what I called it back in the day, but I made it part of my Imaginarium series, which has since been taken off YouTube, but you can find it on my SoundCloud. And to me, I love that mix. And that was my birthday present to myself. So I made those 3 mixes within about a month of each other. Then somewhere around there, I made the Gimme That Old Time Swing, Biological Imperative. I made a drum and bass mix a week before the Biological Imperative. Like all of them had those key elements that I was looking for in a mix that was like what I call transcendent, something that just changes how you perceive yourself. I made a psychedelic trance mix also called iUniverse that to me, like I liked it. I liked it a lot. I made a mix called Rainy Days. Again, I really enjoyed that one. And I guess as this is all like going on, I'm just blowing up. And at the time, I'm working like 50 hours a week, living in San Francisco, but not living in San Francisco. Commuting to San Francisco is a fucking nightmare. It's the worst. No, it's not the worst thing I've ever experienced, but it's terrible. So I was like, well, I can't fucking do this forever. I'm gone like 60 or 70 hours a week. I hate this. I need to go. What am I gonna do? And so I get on a little Google and I'm like, what are the most affordable places to live in nature? And I think it was like a top 10 list, and Knoxville, Tennessee was number 2. It's not like I had a unique skill set or anything. I worked in kitchens and restaurants, but I also knew that type of work translates anywhere you go. There's always restaurants looking for people who can cook. And Knoxville, surprisingly, has more restaurants per capita than a lot of places. Locals around here say it's anywhere in the U.S. besides New York, but I don't know if that's true. Fact check me. I don't know. I could Google it now, but I'm not going to. So, yeah, Knoxville. At the time, I had some money saved up. I didn't have any family there. I didn't have any friends there. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have a place to live. I had a cat. Kitty, she's in the other room. I would love to introduce you guys, but my door's closed, so she's not going to be coming in next time. So, yeah, I said fuck it. I sold everything that wouldn't fit in my car, and then I threw away most of everything else. This is it. Here, let me show you something. This fucking thing right here. Oh my god. What is that? This shitty little $200 fucking controller. God. God. I had this for maybe 3 years or so. I made the masterpiece sessions on this, just touching it. I mean, it's been in my closet for years. But, just a generic garbage little, it feels like a toy. It's just like little plastic, but it has everything you need. You've got volume control. It didn't even have gain. You have your highs, your mids, your lows. It had like looping capability and effects pads. I never used those. But yeah, I took this with me. Shit. Oh. So I took that, I took my speakers, I took my cat, I took some jeans, I took a t-shirt, that was it. And I drove to Knoxville. Oh God. I didn't have like anything set up. I drove through Knoxville and I almost drove all the way out of the city because I thought it was bigger. It's not. And as I'm going from west to east, East Knoxville is the worst part of the city. But it's also the most affordable. And since I was like on limited means and I didn't have a place to live, I ended up camping out in a hotel in like the seediest, shittiest part of the neighborhood of the city. So I like check in. The smell, there were literally bloodstains on the wall. Like, I remember going outside for a smoke, and there were like people, and they're just like watching me, you know, just standing at the doorway. Like everyone was on edge. There was like this new dude's in town. And I was just like, fuck, what have I done? What have I done? So I actually had to live there for like a month or so until I could get a job and find a place to live. So I didn't really make a lot of mixes in that time. I tried to make one mix in the hotel, and I'm all about energy. You know, I need to be able to flow and feel it. And there was just this oppressive, deathly, garbage fucking energy, and I couldn't do it. So I moved. I got my own apartment, and I set it up. And the first thing I did, God, that is the Imaginarium mix that is still on YouTube. That was the first mix I made. And it was like that same thing where it was just like, okay, new city, new life, new job. I wanted to isolate myself in a lot of ways so that I had no option but to move forward with my life. And now that I had that, that was what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to make mixes and I just wanted to feel better. You know, I felt like I had been losing my mind for a long time. And making these, and the other more personal thing that I was involved in, that was it. That was the only thing. I didn't really trust myself to be around anything else because I felt like you open that door and you can't always control what comes in. And I was just being very cautious. So I make the Imaginarium. I think the channel had grown to that point to a couple of thousand, which is cool. You know, I never even thought I'd hit 1,000. The whole thing was just surprising, very much. So that was 2015. 2014 was the great move, and I moved in 2015. And I think the next year and a half were more of like rebuilding era more than anything. I do know that I made the first It Came from the 80s that year. I want to say I made the first Rabbit Hole late 2016 because I finished it 2017. Kind of like laying the foundation. I was still making, I don't even know what to call those mixes where you just like dedicate everything you have in that month to getting that mix done. But I mean, that's kind of what I did those few years is I worked a lot. And I guess I kind of had to figure out how to balance making like very thought out, drawn out, like, okay, this is what this mix has to be. And also like, I'm a DJ though. I like to DJ. I want to be able to just go up there and play around and have fun. So there had to be a distinction. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I just gonna like enjoy myself and put on a set, or is this gonna be something that is gonna take a while? Like, what am I going for? So I kind of figured out how to draw the outline those years. So I didn't lose the fun aspect of DJing in the sake of making something artistic. Uh, I know as those years went by, like the following, the traffic increased. I know at some point I hit 10,000, probably in 2016. And I really felt like the creative juices flowing. It was a very unique time for me. And I want to say the internet too, and that there were so many like subcultures and subgenres and rich subcultures with like articulate artists who had already had a nice anthology of beautiful music, and then there were other artists supporting that community, and there were so many different subgenres that within those communities these people were known and respected, but it's not like they were ever able to really get out of that. It was just, oh, well, if you listen to Witch House, you know about this, or if you listen to Wave or trip hop or synth wave or any of those other like subculture subgenres of music. It felt more underground to me. um, so I was kind of like a kid. It's like every week I'd be like, oh, I've never heard of this type of music before, let's do it. And a lot of the time, I didn't even know those genres of music existed. It was just like I had this idea of a type of music that I wanted to play, and then I could find it. Like, I remember when I got into deep dubstep, it was just remembering what dubstep had sounded like when it first came out in, like, I don't know, 2009, 2008, where it was very minimalistic. It wasn't all that screeching, just it was very like roots dub, kind of reggae, but very, I don't want to say trippy, but there was just this multi-layered dub effect with rolling bass. And I was like, I wish I could find something like that with more modern production techniques. So I get on Google, I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of it. So, I'm making those mixes, and it's just fun. I had a really good time. Again, I was like, that's all I did. I literally went to work and I came home. I would go out for dinner a lot of the time, and I would come home and I would be up until like 3 or 4 in the morning. Just so I will like fast forward to 2017, 18, because that's the pivotal year. I get this idea that like things are going good, but they can be better. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And by that time, I had a good idea of like what people wanted to hear, what I could make that people would listen to, and also what like the greater internet might listen to, things that I would make that could attract people to the channel. And I'm like, well, the only way I'm going to do that is if I have to produce a lot of content. So I think the intent was 100 mixes 1 year, 2 a week. I did it. I made, I think it was like 110. It was like my greatest creative achievement ever. It's so weird because I'm so like disconnected from everything that happened then. Like it literally like happened to another person. Like I can remember these things. I can see the apartment. I can hear the mix and remember where the turntables were positioned in the house, and like maybe what I was watching at TV during that time, or whatever distraction was in my life. But there's just this like dissonance between where I was and where I am, and it's very weird. It's very weird, and it's like I feel it deep in me that was like an important part of my life. But at the other time, I'm just like, it's like it happened to somebody else. So 2017, I know I finished the rabbit hole. I believe I finished the masterpiece sessions, and I'm pretty sure that finished on Christmas too. that was like a nice little spiral of completion, having those start on the same day, end in the same day. And I knew when I made it that it was just like, that's it, like I said what I needed to say. And I don't really feel like all of the masterpiece sessions were great. The first one was. The second one was. I like the fourth one, but I don't think it's like on the same level. The fifth one, in my opinion, is like the greatest. The sixth one was good, very good, but not great. And then the seventh one, I should have ended it before I like took my favorite parts of all of the other six and created this 3-hour mega mix, and then it would have been good. But anyways. So that series ended, made this progressive house mix called Homecoming, Rabbit Hole ended. I want to say that was the year that It Came From the 80s blew up. I dropped a lot of shit that year. I'm not quite sure. I want to say maybe Reality Breaks, but I think that was actually 2016. I don't know. It was like an important year for me. And I think in terms of what I've done with the channel, that was like peak. So then I remember, I guess like the last real mix I made in 2017 might have been Rabbit Hole. And it was like, I'll always listen to the mix before I upload it and just kind of like have my own time with it. I remember I was sitting and I was listening to it, and the last song plays. And where I live, it doesn't really snow that much. Sometimes it snows, sometimes it doesn't. And as that song plays, snow starts coming down, and like, I don't know, it meant something to me. It was just like it was time for me to do something different, like it was time for me to change again. I think I had been in that apartment for like 3 years, and I felt a lot better about things, but I still wasn't where I wanted to be. So I think I moved out like 6 months later or something like that. But I kind of think that I had burnt my creative impulse then in like 2017 to 2018. It was like I forced myself to just like, this has to happen, like everything I had rested on being able to do that. So then 2018 came around, and I don't know how, I think I've made like over 500 fucking mixes. I still am convinced I cannot do it. Still, I go up there, I'll be like mid-transition, and I just want to throw my fucking headphones and been like, this sucks. It's gonna suck. Just stop. And I don't quite get it. There have been periods where it wasn't like that, but come 2018, after that year, it was very hard for me to get back into it. I think I had like a strong intent, like I want this to happen. And when it did, I don't think I had anything else artistically I was striving for, because I had already achieved it. It wasn't ever about like, oh, I want to have a lot of subscribers. Even though I did, it was just about like, I had a lot of shit in here that needed to go out, and it did. But so then 2018, I got into this thinking that like, okay, I'm not good enough to do freestyle mixes anymore. Every mix I'm doing needs to be like masterpiece sessions quality or something like that, where I need to draw out and make every mix step by step. And it kind of just like stole the fucking passion from me. It was like all my own fault, like I doubted myself for whatever reasons. And I made some really good mixes building them like that, but I hated every second of it. I made this one called Roll Call. It was like a ragga drum and bass reggae thingy. And I fucking love that mix, but I can't even tell you how angry I was that whole time I made it. And it's ironic because it makes me feel really good when I listen to it now. It's just a very fun Rastafari, you know, you're just like grooving. But when I made it, it was just like angry. And a lot of the mixes I made at that point after, just, it was a different type of anger. Whereas like before it was me expressing anger to get it out of me, this kind of started to turn inward again. But I mean, I still kept doing it. You know, at that point, I didn't really feel like I had anything else to do. I didn't have friends. You know, I was still just in like this city where I didn't know people. I worked. I came home. I made mixes. Or I watched Netflix. Let's be honest. So I made one mix in that period that was like really important to me. Inseparable. And Insomnia. Both start with I-N. I just noticed that. Inseparable is one of my favorite trip hop mixes that I've ever made, and Insomnia is an excellent drum and bass mix. Excellent. And that was a freestyle. You know, I remember when I made it, I hadn't slept in like, I had slept like a few hours, but not like sleep. It'd been like a week, and I just felt like shit all of the time. And I was like, fuck it. Even if it sounds like shit, maybe it won't, and I need some release. And it's weird when you're up there, like, I know, like after a couple of transitions, if I find that groove, it's fucking on. It's fucking on. But it is, and I found it, and it just felt so good. You know, it felt like it had years before when, I don't know, maybe I guess it was like an ego got involved or something, because before I felt like I was shit. So I had like very little ego about what I could do, and then I made a bunch of stuff that made me feel better. Oh. So I had a bigger ego to contend with. Well, Insomnia broke through that. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. It's a good mix. And I don't know. Around that time, I started making friends. I started dating someone. This was like a multiple year long thing where I was in this different apartment than the first one I moved when I got to this city. And I know I still made mixes. I made the last, it came from the 80s there. This was all about 4 or 5 years ago. But, what happened? I don't want to say like life caught up with me. Maybe it did. You know, I got a girlfriend. We end up buying a house together. We get married. I become a stepdad. I had hated my fucking job. I had been there for like 6 years at that point. I fucking hated it. But the money was good, you know, and I was never used to having like, I had enough, but I never had enough that I was like comfortable. It was always like, I can't really afford to do anything. I could eat. I always had money for food. I mean, granted, I had to be selective, but I could eat. But I mean, you know, you get money coming in. So I think it was like a combination of just like a shitty fucking job, and then just a bunch of like new life shit coming up. And I just found myself like not where I was in the beginning, where I was just like hating everything with everything that I had, but it was really fucking hard to like reintegrate myself into the world in a way that I swore I never fucking would. Because I had to, because at this point, you know, like, I have a family to take care of. I have a house I have to pay for. You know, responsibilities, things that I swore I would never have because it was easier to just live alone. I don't do now, you know, so what is my point? What is my point? I guess it's just why I haven't been able to produce shit in so long. Um, I've always been able, like, I could go up right now and just fucking drop a generic ass pop, and I could pick good songs, and it wouldn't sound bad, but it would lack, it would lack my heart. So I don't, even some of the mixes I drop now, it's not like there's no heart, but I guess I struggle with like knowing what I could do and feeling like I can't do it. And I don't know if it's just because I don't feel like I have that shit in there anymore that has to get out. So I'm just like artistically, I don't know. But I do know, I think in order for me to like move forward with my life happily, I couldn't just be a fucking confused byproduct of a misinformed culture and live in a shitty goddamn apartment, a bad neighborhood, and fucking work shitty jobs and go home and just fucking like at some point I had changed enough to where like I had to create something different. So I buy a house, we weren't married when I bought the house, but we got married. We had a lovely wedding in our backyard. It was 2020 fucking, it was like awful for the fucking world, but it was really good for me personally in that I bought a house. I bought it right before the world turned to shit. I got married and we had a beautiful wedding in my backyard. I mean, it like laid into motion a lot of things that still make living fucking hard. I don't want to say it's terrible, but so yeah, I quit my job that had the money and I started working shitty jobs again. I was like a fucking overnight donut maker. It's terrible. It's the worst experience. Did that for like 3 or 4 months, maybe 5, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And then I got a job. Like I started my career in pizza, and this was like a pizza place, but it was also like an Italian restaurant. And I can make some pizza. Oh, I'll make some pizza. But I wanted to work in the kitchen just because it's more fun to me. So I got a job in their kitchen, and it was what I needed it to be, and that it like allowed me to return to myself and like a comfortable atmosphere that I was familiar with. Like so much had happened in so many years, and I just needed like just a place where I could work that was like, it was more than stability, and it wasn't like friendship. It was just like safe. It was safe. It was doing something that I knew how to do with people who were safe. They didn't mean me any harm. And I could like heal myself from what the healing process had been like. I had been through so much to get to where I was that I had to heal all of that. It's just like this perpetual tumbling over myself. And I worked at that pizza place for 6 months. And I know I've dropped mixes since then, but God, I couldn't even tell you the last mix I dropped that I was really, really fucking proud of. I dropped a breakcore mix not that long ago that I enjoyed. There's my YouTube channel right there. Let's see here. Straight Trippin' was pretty good. Straight Trippin'. Fashionably Late was good. Underground Movement was good. I know I'm being annoying. Stop it, Nick. Stop it. Yeah, Archive was tight. Anyways. So then I got another job, right? It was like a big boy job. It was like for the first time in my life, like good money, benefits for the first time in my life. I've not had health insurance ever. fucking ever. I haven't been to a doctor. I went to a doctor in China when I was living there. Because you can go to a doctor if you need to go to a doctor there. But I haven't been to a doctor in America. I don't know, 16 maybe? So, I've got health insurance. It's like a good job. But it's more demanding. It was one of those things that I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. What the fuck? I'm gonna have to edit this, aren't I? Probably. I guess I'm just trying to say like where I am now, because I feel guilty in some ways, in a lot of ways, at how fucking little work I've done. Making this channel was important for a lot of different reasons, and I remember it was when I made that first like multi-genre mix with that explosion. I was like, someone out there is going to be just as fucked in the head as I am, and this is going to help them. And I know that that's happened, where there's been some other, I can say lost soul, because I can say, another wandering lost soul who just wants to find some relief from the fucking insanity of this goddamn world wanders onto my channel and hits play, and for an hour, however long, it stops. And being able to be that for people has been like important to me. And I haven't been that lately, which is why I bring up where I am right now in my life, because it's important, like I know some of you care about me. It's a very weird thing to make something that's been touched or listened to or affected, God, like 35 to 40 million people, but never know or never talk or have a relationship with any of them. So it's all kind of like imagined perceptions, like I don't know what people are thinking or if they think, but I think and I feel, and sometimes it makes me upset that I haven't been there for the people who've needed me like I was, and I wish I could be, and I hope that there will be a time when I am, but that's why I'm not. I have responsibilities. I have to make money. I can't say it doesn't make me happy, because it does. This is like it's something I've never done before. It's challenging for different reasons. It's rewarding for different reasons, but I feel for like my own personal growth, like wanting to do not just things I haven't, but like being able to have good relationships with people and sharing that with people and doing things. Like it's not really healthy for me to have spent as much time alone as I have. So this has been good, but I guess looking back on the 10-year history of the channel, it's just where I am right now. I can tell you that I think about making mixes every day. I do. I don't get to practice as much as I'd like. Sometimes I'll go up there. It's just weird. Sometimes I'll make something and I want to upload it and I feel like afraid, I don't know. Somehow I attach issues onto everything. It's something I need to get over, but I think that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to say. We're like 55 fucking minutes, an hour of Nick. we'll end it on a positive note because that last note was certainly confused. 10 years. I know there are thousands of you that it's been like an organic relationship, I suppose, and that you have interacted with me in a way, and I've interacted with you in a way, either through looking at comments or responding to comments. And it has inspired me in ways to do things that I never would have. So many of the mixes came out as a result of input from you. And I mean, it's not like I know you, but I do, like you all have had a tremendous impact on my life. I wish I could do more. I do. Maybe I will. 2 years ago, I swore I was going to have another 100 mixed year. And that first month, I dropped 8. And then it's very hard to battle with life. Like get in the mode and you're like, I'm going to fucking go. And then life throws everything it fucking can at you. And like right now, these last like 3 years, it's just been hard. But anyways, 10 years. It really wouldn't happen without you. If there wasn't an interest in what I did, I do think like I'd still make mixes, but not what I have. And I'm really proud of what I've done. So thank you for believing in me. Hopefully I see you around. Thank you.